What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Bets and Ball Games with Edwards and Greeson. We are recording here late morning on Friday after the NFL draft. Before I get to Mr. Greeson in Chattanooga, let's tell you about our good friends at Bet Online, which remains your top spot for all your live betting action and contest. NHL, NBA, UFC, the NFL draft, all in full swing. Bet Online, your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All the hoops betting action, along with every sport available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to Bet Online today and remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's all caps, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, Jay, how are we doing, my man?
We're doing great. We are both cashing checks that the Bet Online over-under of 4.5 quarterbacks in the first round easily cashed. But sadly, our Atlanta Falcons were the ones who took the fifth quarterback. And holy God, man! Former Auburn quarterback Bo Nix was the 12th pick in the draft.
Crazy. That was wild. And what was it? 15 offensive players? Never seen
14
anything
in a row. The
14.
First 14 picks were offensive players.
That I've never seen anything like that. I hit my only bet. I did JJ McCarthy over 5.5 at a plus 130 return. That was the only bet I did, and it was a winner. So that worked.
I had to pay steep odds, even on with the great folks at Bet Online. I mean, it was minus 250, but this was going to be a quarterback-driven draft. The 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round ties the record set in 1983.
Yeah, and we're gonna go over some of the first round picks with the SEC ties, and we start doing that right now. We both said last week we think Jaden Daniels is better than Caleb Williams. He goes number 2 to Washington. We were not alone on that. I like Louis Riddick said the same thing, and I feel like a few others did. But so we both think Jaden Daniels is going to be a home run for Washington, correct?
100% a home run, and I actually think with the ownership change in DC, the Commanders are in a place to actually take a monster step forward. I think Jaden Daniels is this year's C.J. Stroud. I mean, I think he is a complete difference maker. He is going to come in. He's going to command the offense. Now, I actually think Chicago's best pick was the wide receiver from Washington at 9. I mean, that guy can play.
Yes.
I mean, but if we're going to talk about SEC, I think the best player in round 1 is probably Malik Neighbors. But and I don't know if I mean, I love the draft. I truly do. And I read about it and I investigate it. And I did not know this story about Malik Neighbors until doing some draft research. His senior year in high school, he was committed to Mississippi State, even as a Louisiana kid. And the main reason Coach O didn't want to offer him because he was ruled ineligible as a transfer because he transferred high schools his senior year. So he didn't play his senior year. He didn't play on Friday nights, but he practiced every day. And the coaches said he came to the coaches meetings and said, who is the other team's best player? I'll be them for the scout team. That's a kid that is going to be a dude in the NFL.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I like Rome Odunze a lot, and Jaden Daniels will like him a lot, but I clearly thought Neighbors was the guy, and the Giants are horrible at the receiver position, so that I agree was a great pick. I don't have a lot of O-line analysis for J.C. Latham, but the Titans.
Well, I do know. I've got a buddy who works for the Titans, and he texted me this morning, and because he knows how much I love the draft, they were heartbroken that Joe Alt went 5 to Harbaugh and the Chargers. I think Latham's going to be a great player, but they thought Alt was going to be one of those Joe Thomas, 10 years, 9 All-Pros, be that guy you just pencil in at left tackle and you don't have to worry about that for the next decade.
Yeah. All right. We're going to pass over the Falcons number 8 pick because we're going to get to that in abundance here in a little while. And yes, because he's got Auburn ties, Bo Nix 12 to Denver seemed like a reach, but I wonder if they could have traded down and got him later with the way everybody was so quarterback hungry. And I don't know about these Drew Brees comparisons that Sean Payton is talking about. I mean, Nix has obviously got way more mobility.
He's bigger too.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing is I think as great as the ESPN folks are, I mean, Mel Kiper, I think, is part AI, part pumpkin pie at this point in time. He has just been a merged conglomerate of computer-generated information. And Louis Riddick is tremendous. Awesome. I love to hear Louis Riddick talk.
Me too.
Dan Orlovsky, not so much. But the conversation has to be, and it is always undersold when it comes to the draft. The most important thing about the draft is value. It's not whether you get this guy, it's whether you get Aaron Donald at 16. I mean, okay, you could take Aaron Donald at 1 and it turned out to be a great pick, but getting him at 16 is tremendous value. And conversely, you ask about the Broncos and we talk about Bo Nix, and I actually like Bo Nix. I actually was buddies with his dad when we were both at Auburn. Patrick Nix, the former Auburn quarterback.
I know. October 15th, 1994, Patrick Nix to Frank Sanders, my buddy, Dr. Michael Gilmore, got beat on the route in the southeast corner of the end zone at the Swamp. That Patrick Nix?
Yeah, Patrick Nix. Yeah.
Okay. We just dropped some SEC knowledge, while we're talking the draft.
Well, hey, which one of us was in the stands? Which one of us got so obnoxious that an old lady in a tank top cussed me out? I'll let our listeners guess. Yeah. Would you rather have Bo Nix at 12 or Spencer Rattler at 47?
Spencer Rattler at 47.
Agreed. And then you get Byron Murphy and you put him at D tackle, and I think Byron Murphy's as big a steal in this draft. I think he is Aaron Donald 2.0. I really do. The comps are so off the charts, identical in terms of 10-yard shuttle, in terms of bench press, in terms of vertical, broad jump, athleticism. I mean, size. They're both 6'1"-ish, 290-ish, and are just wreckers. I mean, wreckers. And, the Broncos went Bo Nix at 12. I think Brock Bowers is going to be I think he's a more athletic Travis Kelce, to be quite honest. I mean, I think he's going to be a 10-year superstar. Where'd he go? He went to the Raiders. Were they 13?
13, but they drafted Mayer last year and just signed a tight end, so a little Falcons-isms going on there with the Raiders. But I can't argue with Bowers at 13. That's great value, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you look up, and one of the things I think the NFL needs to do is they need to flip the schedule a little bit to where the free agency is behind the draft, because you've got more control over free agency, whereas you don't have as much control as a team in the way the dominoes fall in the draft.
Yeah. So, yeah, we love Bowers to the Raiders. And look, Murphy and Latu and Dallas Turner. I mean, it's almost. I mean, well, it affects their money where they got drafted, but it's almost like they couldn't even be pissed about falling, because it wasn't like anybody was choosing a defensive player ahead of them. I mean, they're pissed for the money factor, but it would, well, you get what I'm saying there.
So I completely get what you're saying, and the truth of it is the Tumblers. It's a weird dynamic where we are in terms of the draft, because think about when a generation or two ago, we were 20 years ago in the draft when Auburn had 2 running backs go in the top 5. Auburn, Carnell and Ronnie Brown.
Yes.
Cadillac Williams and Ronnie Brown went both in the top 5, and Cedric Benson went in the top 5 too in that draft. So there were 3 running backs in the top 5 picks. This year, none. For the second time in 3 years, bagel running backs in round 1.
Yep. So my first cousin, who's like a 25-year Jacksonville Jag ticket owner, like even in their 2 and 14 years, he would go to the London game. He texted me this morning. What do you think about our pick? I think Brian Thomas Jr. at 23. I think it's a solid pick. His over under, when I saw it a couple of days ago, on betting boards, was 19.5. So I think they got a solid pick there. You?
Oh, I love Brian Thomas. I think both of those guys on the perimeter at LSU this year were tremendous, and they ran an NFL offense, caught passes from an NFL quarterback. They are more advanced in the progression than most. And I mean, if you're going to draft a Miami tight end, an Alabama DB, and an LSU wide receiver. And then, I mean, the rest of it, you just kind of shrug your shoulders and hope it works.
Yeah, so Ricky Pearsall to the Niners, 31. I think it's a great fit for him, going to a good team. It gives them another offensive weapon. Now, are they going to trade Ayuk? I don't know. I think a lot of people are surprised Pearsall went ahead of a few other receivers. Xavier Legette, it's a mystery why. I know it was some injuries for he had a monster senior year, but didn't have that great of. I mean, he showed flashes as freshman through junior year, but you get Bryce Young, a weapon with Carolina at 32. Any thoughts on Pearsall and Legette, 31 and 32 to the Niners and Panthers?
Well, I think Legette is one of those kids that every time if he can stay healthy, when he gets on the field, he makes plays. And I think Pearsall is I thought it was a little bit of a reach, to be quite honest. I'm surprised Ladd McConkey from Georgia was still left on the board. I am future SEC member as of next year. I think Patrick Mahomes is quite tickled that they got the fastest guy on the planet wearing pads in Xavier Worthy. I mean, he's going to sit in the huddle and go, all right, everybody just block. Xavier, run as far as you can, as fast as you can, and I'm going to throw it deep. On two, ready? And then that may be a play.
Yeah.
I mean.
Now, I'll tell you what Pearsall did. He showed you what if you just absolutely kill everything at the combine and crush all your interviews, how much you can write, because that's what he did. He did everything perfect at the combine. I don't even think he had a pro day, or just barely did a few things at his pro day because he had dominated.
Well, unless the old ball coach comes down there, who's going to throw him the football on pro day?
Very good point. Very good point. Okay. All right. I don't know if you had any thoughts on this. Our friends at Bet Online, they only have 2 players available with a bet specific what team they go to, and one of them is our boy Spencer Rattler. The Raiders are plus 120 favorite, Rams plus 360, Jets plus 450, Giants plus 600, Steelers and Seahawks 10-1, Saints 12-1. I don't have the list of where teams pick, but obviously those teams with the shorter odds are the teams that are looking for quarterbacks. I think he's a good get anywhere in the 3rd round. I won't be surprised though if he goes mid-late 2nd.
No. I actually took a flyer on a prop bet on Spencer Rattler being drafted in round 2 at plus 380 on one of Bet Online's competitors, but you had to do it before the
draft started.
Yeah. So, okay. I mean,
well, you know what? They might repost those this afternoon. Like they might repost those this afternoon. So maybe.
But at plus 380,
I kind of like where you're sitting there.
Oh yeah, love it. And I would. The Raiders is a good guess. I hope the Saints don't take him, because then the Saints are gonna. I mean, we're going to talk about the Falcons in a minute, but you're talking about your arch rival. They're going to get a 1st-round starter and then their backup quarterback in round 2, whereas the Falcons spent pick 8 on a backup quarterback and hoping to find contributors on day 2. So, I mean, I don't know, but I know there's a lot of SEC. Before we get off the draft and we turn the page, Nick Saban was great last night.
So was Belichick.
Yes.
I only watched Belichick. I scrolled McAfee's Twitter, and it had like a lot of 1.5-minute sound bites on each pick, and I probably watched 5 or 6 of them. What channel was Saban on? Because I didn't see that.
He was on. All right, I think the main draft coverage was on ABC, and then he was on one of the ESPN spinoffs. I mean, they had it on like a half dozen channels, and understandably, I mean, the draft is a marquee event for them. But Saban talking not only about college players, but his players, because Alabama had 4 go in the 1st round?
Arnold to the Lions.
And his conversation about Arnold and how much Miss Terry loved that kid tells me that, hey, I'd be willing to put a couple of shackles on that kid being defensive rookie of the year. The way Saban was praising that dude.
I think Brad Holmes is the best GM in the NFL with the Lions right now.
Hey, they've crushed back-to-back drafts.
Nobody got more criticized last year, and they nailed both those picks with Laporta.
Well, and I know we're on Southeastern 14, but I had somebody ask me in the 5 at 10 this morning at timesfreepress.com, why don't the Falcons draft more Georgia players? Well, the Eagles have become really good drafting a whole lot of Georgia players. Alabama's become really good drafting a whole lot of Alabama players. You know why? Those kids practice against future pros every single day.
Yep.
So, I mean.
Yeah. No doubt. All right. And somebody needs to get Belichick and Saban need to do their own show together.
They will.
With somebody.
It'll be under the Manning umbrella.
With somebody quarterbacking that. All right. So before we get to the NBA and before we lambaste the Falcons for the number 8 pick, we're going to talk about my Florida Gators and the season win total. We did Auburn last week, so we're going to talk the Gators today. The Gators, for the 2nd year in a row, have their lowest season win total in program history. That's where we are with Billy Bob Napier. Year 2 and year 3, at a time where it's easier to retool and rebuild a roster than it's ever been. And let me also point out, right when Napier got there, we opened a $85 to $90 million state-of-the-art football-only facility to attract recruits. And yet all three recruiting classes have been below Dan Mullen's three recruiting classes. And Dan Mullen got run out of town for, he didn't overachieve in year 4. He got run out of town for his recruiting and getting beaten by Saban and Kirby on the recruiting trail. So anyway, Gators under 5.5 wins, but this year the under is shaded minus 200.
Oh, so, my word! Really?
I mean, they could really have put it at 4.5 or 5.
I mean, don't put it at 5.5 and then give me minus 200.
Right?
I'd rather it be 4.5 because I'm taking the under on each.
Right. Yeah, and then it'll be maybe pick them at 4.5, or maybe still slightly under at minus 120. Yeah. So they're trying to make it impossible to take the under. All right, here we go with the schedule. And by the way, for the over, for those of you who dare take the over, you can get a
Hey, those of you who dare want to take the over, and we're going to break down the games and the schedules, and even much to the chagrin of my man Brian, your money would be better served to just go get some scratch-offs at the Tennessee or Florida lottery.
Yeah, but it's a plus 160 return for the over. Okay, so there are 3 winnable games to start the year. The Gators begin at home with Miami, then Samford, and then A&M. Okay, so my first call on these, Jay, and then I'll see what you think of these 3. And I know we kind of last week, or I did, kind of called a coin flip or a swing game, whatever. I'm going to do that in my initial going over the schedule today, but then we're going to circle back and I'm going to actually pick it. So, but right now, I'm going to say that the Miami at Florida, I'm going to call that a swing game or a coin flip for now. I'm going to say a W with Samford, and then I'm going to say another coin flip with A&M at the Swamp. And when we go ahead and just finish September, the next week is at Mississippi State, which is in rebuilding mode. So I'm also going to call that a coin flip for now. For me, through September, because there's an off week the next week, I'm 1-0 for the Gators with 3 coin flips. What say you?
All right. The first thing I'm going to say is August 31st, Miami coming to Florida may be the most interesting game. I'm not saying it's the highest profile game. It may be the most interesting game of the opening weekend because you want to talk about the eternal hot seat bowl. I mean, whichever team walks out of there with an L, both of those coaches are head on a swivel, right?
Yes, 100%.
And so the desperation, there's going to be a whole lot of folks putting a whole lot in all through the offseason into that first game. I think it's a coin flip. I think Miami's better than Florida, so I would lean towards Miami, but I think the desperation for the Gators is staggering. I think Florida just has more dudes than Samford, so that's if the game 2 is certainly a win. Game 3 has to be a win, which is Texas A&M, because Texas A&M has been gutted and is retooling, and at home, that has to be a win. Otherwise, the season could really spiral beyond September, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could have Spurrier as interim head coach by the time we get to the Tennessee game October 12th. And, hey, wouldn't anybody be happier about it than me?
Well, and you know what? Vegas would turn that from Tennessee minus 12 to Florida -2 at Spurrier's on the sideline, because that son of a bitch never loses to Tennessee.
Or Georgia.
Well, which makes me think of the great story about when they told Ray Goff that he was getting inducted into the Georgia-Florida rivalry Hall of Fame, and he said, "Well, which side is inducting me?" Because he was a great quarterback at Georgia, but he never beat Florida as a coach. So, yes, yeah, yeah.
All right. So what about at Mississippi State for the Gators?
See, I think Mississippi State's going to be pretty good. And
wait, remind me who their quarterback is. Who did they get?
Well, they lost Will Rogers, but they got a transfer dude.
Yeah, I know they got a good one, and
yes, I was pretty upset that he didn't come to Auburn, and the whole Leach thing completely derailed everything that was going on down there. But
you're not talking about Michael Van Buren, the 4-star out of high school. No, you're talking about a veteran, right?
I'm talking about the Baylor quarterback, Blake Shapen.
Oh, right. Yeah. He's pretty good. Okay. Gotcha.
And that place is sneaky tough to play.
Starkville has been a house of horrors for Florida for decades. Now, we don't go there very much. Sometimes we'll go there once a decade, but it has been a house of horrors for us for decades.
When I was in college, we made a point to go to every SEC
road game at one point.
At one point or another. I took an entire fifth of Jack Daniels under my coat into Starkville, and I don't know if they cared or if they noticed, but either way, we're sitting up there, and Auburn bludgeoned them, because this was when I was in school at Auburn. It was the late 80s, early 90s. They were pretty doggone good. And
was this before Jackie Sherrill?
Yes.
Okay.
Still the cowbells, though. That more cowbell.
Rocky Felton.
That's the more cowbell is not as funny to other SEC fans as it is to like random SNL fans with Will Ferrell going, I think I got a fever. I need more cowbell. And then you're going, no, you really don't. You need less cowbell.
Yes, this is true. This is true. All right. Where were we? Oh, you were going to pick that game, right?
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I think it so much hinges on the Miami game, because the momentum that could possibly create at home in that moment. There's a real difference. There's a coin flip in Miami, Florida, that could be the difference between 4-0 heading to October and 1-3, and possibly having fired your coach.
Yes. Well, you know what? I think we have to wait to the end of the season for the buyout to go all the way down to $24 million. I think, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it goes down with like each segment of the season. I'm not positive. All right. Okay. So, off week, UCF at home. I'm going to go that's a win. I'm going to go at Tennessee as a loss. Kentucky at home. Oh, man. That is a tough one. I'm going to call that a coin flip for now. Then an off week. Then Georgia, a loss. So that's 1-2. So I've got us 2-2 with 4 coin flips going down the stretch. Here, I'll go ahead and just finish it off, because it's just going to be LLL. At Texas, L. LSU at home, L. Ole Miss at home, L. At FSU, L. So I've got 2-6 with 4 coin flips, and then I'm going to go grade those coin flips here in a minute. All right, go ahead. You.
So, all right, I'm not going to flip a coin. I'm going to say, do you trust your quarterback? I know you hate your coach. Do you trust your quarterback?
I do. I think I trust 2 of them.
Okay. All right, then I'm gonna say Florida starts 4-0, 5-0.
5-7.
Lose to
They lose.
Tennessee. You lose your last 5.
So you got us 5-6 with Kentucky being
Yes.
the
Yes.
swing game.
Yes.
But that determines over or under.
100% does. It 100% does. And that is, I think if we're going to bet it, you've got to bet the under, because I'm counting on momentum and not on talent. So I think in a big picture way, 5-7 may be the best Florida can do, because that's losing Kentucky at home, which is not, I know, is a horrific thought for longtime Florida football fans, but it also is winning every wishbone game in September.
Yeah, the thing that's going to suck about Florida is our defense is going to suck for the 5th year in a row. Our defense was good like 40 years in a row, and now we're going to suck for a 5th year in a row. That's the part that I don't trust. And the special teams are horrible, and the coaching's horrible.
Well, and to that end, before you give our folks your pick on whether you're going over, under, and why, if you take Vandy out of the equation, is there a coach in the SEC you would not trade Billy Napier for?
Well, I'm not sold on Mississippi State's coach Levy yet, just because I haven't seen him make clock management decisions and all that. So I'm just going to kind of, I'm just going to kind of.
If we take because Vandy's got a new one, and if you take Mississippi State out because we haven't really seen him, but guys who've been there a year or two, is there a coach in the SEC that, and I'll ask you this in the opposite end of the question too, is there a coach in the SEC that school would trade their coach for Billy Napier?
I don't even know if Vandy would. Vandy might, but that's it.
Sam Pittman, maybe.
Okay, yeah, maybe Pittman. I'd rather have Pittman.
Oh, well, I know you would, but I think Arkansas. I mean, goodness knows, Arkansas is looking to break up with everybody. I mean, they hustled Musselman out and then brought in Calipari. I mean, they're probably thinking they're going to fire Pittman and bring in Saban. So
I like me some Sam Pittman. But no, Napier. Okay. So
right,
no,
I got 5-7, and I'm going to pay the juice. What do you got?
All right, we're going to win one out of the two between Miami and A&M, but we're not winning both. We're going to win one out of those two, so that gets us to 3-7. I'll say we win at Mississippi State. That'll be 4-7, and then that leaves the Kentucky game. It's at home. I'll say very hesitant. I don't know. Kentucky did good in the portal. I'll say hesitantly that we'll win the Kentucky game to go 5-7. I like the under, but I don't lay -200 prices. Now, even as I'm saying 5-7, we all the books, and certainly it is April. We could get some books at 5 at different prices, or even 4.5, and maybe I'll decide we lose against Kentucky if there is a chance to go under 5, or it'll still be a push. So all I guess I'm really trying to say is don't bet the over.
Yeah.
All right. So we got some NBA thoughts, but let's first go to one of the more baffling draft decisions in years, if not decades. And couple things. It's being reported that the Saints, the Raiders, and Seahawks all inquired with the Falcons about giving them a haul of picks to move up to number 8 to take whoever, perhaps Penix or McCarthy. So they turned that down. I also want to know, when did the Falcons fall in love with Penix? Did you fall in love with him before you committed $100 million guaranteed to Cousins, or did you fall in love after you committed the money to Cousins? And let's say Cousins plays well and stays healthy, and it plays 3 solid years. He's under contract for 4, but only the first 2 are guaranteed. Like, because going into year 4, maybe Penix hasn't played. You got to decide whether you're picking up his 5th-year option at that point. Like, the floor is yours. Like, what?
Well, the Reader's Digest version of this is the Falcons are going to Falcon. And sadly, you and I grew up in Atlanta. I have been a Falcons fan. My father and I were season ticket holders from 78 to 85. And right up until the 85 season before the strike hit. And I don't really have any way to explain this, because if you thought this guy was the gem of the draft, then you don't give $180 million contract and $100 million guaranteed to Kirk Cousins.
A 35-year-old coming off his first serious injury too.
Yeah, but you know what though? Michael Penix is 24 and he's had 2 ACL tears. So
and a throwing shoulder.
So I mean, it's not like you just spent valuable draft capital on a backup quarterback, because best case scenario, that as you're pitching this to your season ticket holders and your fans and the media and whatever else, best case scenario, this guy doesn't see the field in 3 years. And I don't want to hear the Jordan Love corollary, because yes, they drafted Jordan Love knowing that Aaron Rodgers was getting there. You just signed Kirk Cousins. So don't say you've got an aging quarterback that we've got to get to the transgression. And we now get reports that Kirk Cousins and his agent say they thought they were going to take a quarterback in later rounds, not at 8 overall. I mean, this is a team in a division that is in a win now mode, that has had the fewest sacks combined over the last 2 years of any team in football.
I bet we can go back 15 years and say the same thing on that stat too, at least 10 as well.
And it is a glaring weakness. And I'll tell you this too, and you talk about Terry Fontenot and his inability to recognize what is happening in the modern day NFL, both in the salary cap and in terms of what is draft value, which we talked about earlier. Do you know how many teams have taken a skill position offensive player 4 straight years in the first round?
Oh, the Falcons. Oh, I thought you were talking about
London,
other than the Falcons.
Pitts, London, Bijan, and now Michael Penix.
So I was right. 0 besides the Falcons.
Yeah, besides the Falcons. The Falcons, yes. Doesn't matter who's going to block. Doesn't matter who's going to stop anybody. Doesn't matter if we're going to build. I mean, you talked about how well the Detroit has built themselves. They went with Aiden Hutchinson and started building themselves around a pass rush that is menacing. The Falcons, they just spent the 8th pick on a guy who's going to best case scenario is going to hold a clipboard for the next 2 years. And then more importantly than that, the way to build a Super Bowl contender in the modern NFL, you have 2 paths. One, you scratch a lottery ticket and you find a quarterback who's worth the $500 million contract you're going to give him, because it's going to suck up a whole lot of your salary cap. That's a Josh Allen. That's a Patrick Mahomes. Could be a Justin Herbert. could be a handful of those dudes. Joe Burrow is one of those guys. The other one is you get a quarterback on a rookie salary and you build around him while you don't have to pay the quarterback astronomical numbers.
San Francisco 49ers the last 2 years.
So what do the Falcons do? They do both, and they overlap them. We're gonna have the $200 million quarterback and the rookie quarterback on the rookie deal. So
and we're gonna piss off Cousins.
Yes.
Welcome to the Falcons, pal.
Yeah. Hey.
Welcome to our world.
Welcome to the ATL. Oh, party never stops.
God almighty. Yeah. Pretty wild. All right. How you been doing in the NBA playoffs? I went 2-0 last night.
Really good.
I had the Magic and I had the Sixers and I should have had the Nuggets, doggone it. But I do want to share that I do like the Nuggets tomorrow. In fact, I also have seen enough of the playoffs, especially with the way the Celtics looked the other night, to know the Celtics, barring an injury to Joker or Jamal Murray, the Celtics have no shot against the Nuggets. I know I'm not getting the best of the number, but I went ahead and played the Nuggets plus 210 to win it all this morning, and I've got the Nuggets -3 tomorrow. And I'm going to go with the Sixers -4.5 on Sunday to pull even in game 4 against the Knicks. And I like under 211.5 with the Mavs and Clippers tonight. What, anything on the NBA?
I'll take the Mavs tonight and lay the numbers. I love the Sixers because I think they're better than the Knicks, as assuredly without Randall in the mix. And I think they're going to get one of the I loved the Sixers last night because not only Joel Embiid, but the NBA admitting that how bad that game 2 was officiated.
The Sixers went to the free throw line a lot last night.
Yeah, they did. They shot a few free throws. I am actually, how we talked about how we were hoping UConn and Purdue were going to get to the title game because UConn was going to be the biggest bet we made all year. I'm really hoping the Lakers win game 4 to make it 3-1. And then the Nuggets are a monster play. I don't know how invested the Nuggets will be in necessarily to sweep, but game 5 will be a beatdown.
Yeah, but LeBron in his presser last night, he goes, at the end of the day, it's just basketball. I think he's ready to go to Cancun Monday or Tuesday.
And so get in the banana boat with Chris Paul, and is Carmelo going to come down there? And I mean, maybe his boy. I mean, you want to talk about a draft prop? Where does Bronny James go?
Right. I think he's going to come back to college, surely. One more pick because, and it's kind of a combining because I'm betting them straight either way, but also like a money line parlay with the Nuggets and Sixers that's a plus 148 payout. And you mentioned how you like the Mavs. I would like the Mavs, but I started a 3-game parlay that was the Sixers last night and OKC 2 nights ago, and I've got the Mavs finishing it. So I'm already on the Mavs, so that's why I don't like that. Some portal news, ex-Alabama guard Rylan Griffin committed to Kansas this morning, averaged 11.2 points for the Final Four team that the Tide had. Nate Oates is hosting official visit with Cliff Amori, the longtime Rutgers standout, one of the best rim protectors. If they get him, woo, buddy. And
did you see
Norchad O'Meara, Kadari Richmond, and Wooga Poplar hitting the portal yesterday. I did. What were you gonna say? Were you
I
gonna
was
say
going to
one of those?
say Penn State's best wide receiver picked Auburn through the portal.
Good for you guys. Florida, Billy Bob Napier was interested in one wide receiver, some Colorado State kid. It was Florida and Syracuse. Guess where he went?
Syracuse.
Syracuse. We getting beat by Syracuse.
Hey, don't sleep on Dino Babers. Oh, yeah, he got
No, he's gone.
fired. Oh, yeah,
Well,
he got fired.
well, you know what? They've got a former Kirby assistant, and he's actually killing it. He got the McCord for Ohio State. Who knew Syracuse could recruit? Get one of Kirby's guys.
Keandre Lambert Smith is the wide receiver from Penn State.
Penn State. Now y'all just need a quarterback.
God almighty. From your lips to God's ears. I'm certain Peyton Thorne's a wonderful fella and his girlfriend loves him, and he probably shows up at church on Sunday, but Christ, we need a quarterback.
Right. Just a couple more thoughts, and we're gonna get on out of here. I think Byington for Vandy is doing a pretty good job. He got this Cornell kid who was all Ivy. He's gonna have a better team than Vandy had last year. And
did they have a worse team?
Right. And then this dude, Chris Beard, he got Sean Padula from Virginia Tech. That's a good get. I think Kentucky's going to get great. What's his name? Osabor from Utah State. Kentucky and Arkansas are going to be real busy here in the coming.
Chris Beard's a dude, by the way. I mean, Chris Beard he knows what he's doing.
No question about it, and I thought that was the right thing. Ole Miss gave him his chance. You don't bolt for Arkansas after 1 year. Worked out for Arkansas too. All right, tell them about the 5 and 10. Oh, and by the way, I get the email every day, but I don't always look at it. I looked at it, I think it was 2 days ago. Still at plus 96 units, almost 2 years into that. Pro, yeah. That's big time. And I think that night you had the Braves run line and team total over 5. Did it hit? I think it was the series finale with Miami, maybe.
Money line hit, team total pushed. Been one of those seesaw type of things. Playing pretty well in the NBA, but it is. And as we mentioned, we enjoyed last night's draft on over 4.5 quarterbacks in round 1, since 6 were taken in the top 12 picks. But you can read the 5 at 10 at timesfreepress.com every morning, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. And Jay's plays, which is what Brian was referencing, we're at plus 95, 96 units over the last 18 and a half, 19 months. You can get that email, and that one's free. Just sign up at timesfreepress.com.
And I'm going to evaluate. Look, they'll be posting fresh NFL draft bets today, and I'll probably tweet a few out if you want to check those out at Vegas. B. Edwards. All right, that's a wrap. Thanks to our good friends at Bet Online and Southeastern 14 for Jay Greeson. I am Brian Edwards. Have a great weekend betting, and have a great weekend in general. We are over and out.